I wouldn't say that a case manager or paralegal ever sees everything there is to see.
All right. So, welcome to the You Are Lawyer podcast. Rob Levine, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing really well. So, I'm really excited to chat with you all about being a lawyer, all the things that you're doing now. And in fact, what was this background that you wanted to show? Is it like your business?
Yeah, so we run two businesses in the big picture, the law firm and then Rob Levine Legal Solutions. And so then there's a number of different services under Rob Levine Legal Solutions. So it references the services that we have on our background.
Yeah. Tell us about some of your offerings. What do you offer with the Rob Levine Legal Services?
Sure. So, I became a lawyer 25 years ago, and the law firm is about 260, 270 people now. So, and then over the years, we've created other solutions for our law firm. And then after we really tested it and perfected it in our law firm, we've run them out now, offering them to others. So, for instance, we have a medical record retrieval company. So originally that was called Record Retrievers, then it was called Records on Time. Now it's under the umbrella of Rob Levine Legal Solutions. So our system integrates with the law firm's case management system. So we integrate with FileVine, Litify, CasePeer, Smart Advocate, Needles. We're adding right now Neos and Clio. And so we continue to add systems. And so what that means is that we literally come into the law firm's case management system, scrape their system once an hour, and then extract the provider information, the client information, the HIPAA form. We collect the records, and then we literally deliver it back into the case management system. So we deliver the records into their document storage system, labeled, OCR'd, and compressed. We push the expenses into their system, the notes of what we're doing into their system. So it really saves them a lot of time and money.
Yeah. And you're making sure that everything is current and up to date. So, I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so first we got to celebrate. You have 250 lawyers working with you. That's a huge deal.
Not just lawyers, that's the whole team. So staff is about 260. Yep.
That's a really big deal, though. I mean, that's a really big deal. I'm 2 years into running my business, 5 years into having the podcast. I was at a big law firm for 5 years. So I'm like, to have 260 people, that's huge. Where are you located?
I live between Puerto Rico and Rhode Island, and the law firm was originally based out of Rhode Island. Personal injury law we do in Rhode Island, Mass, Connecticut, and New Hampshire. And then we also do Social Security disability and veterans disability, and we do that nationwide, the whole country.
Okay. And so my mind is swimming. When you first started, did you ever think the firm would get this big or that your services would get this big?
When I first started, no, probably I did not envision what we've accomplished.
Okay. So would you say that success kind of grew with you or that your dreams got a little bit bigger as like you found some success?
I mean, the goal was always to be successful. And I think in a law firm, success doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be big. I mean, you can be boutique and still do big cases. And it also depends on, I suppose, what your definition of success is, right? Everybody's definition is different. So I would say just over time, as I learned more, got better business skills, had better ideas of what I like doing and what I wanted to accomplish, which that has definitely changed. So you just learn, right? Life's a journey.
Yeah. I love the humility. Okay. All right. So is your firm mostly virtual or are there offices in all these states?
We have about 19 offices, but they are mainly just for meeting with clients. They're not really locations where people work. We have one location where I have team members working out of, but the rest maybe have 15 people in an office, and the rest is we're 99% remote.
And did that transition happen after COVID or as you started to scale, you just were like, it makes more sense to not have?
Happened after COVID. So before COVID, the law firm was about 100 people. And so then after COVID, we've grown dramatically, but we also started hiring internationally. So I have team members now in all over the US, and then we have team members in Puerto Rico, Colombia, Peru, and the Philippines. And so we talked about having an office there, but it was working so well after COVID in the US to be remote, which, if you asked me before COVID, would I let people work remote? I would have said never. Then obviously we had to. And I thought to myself, the team members loved it. Everybody enjoyed it. I think people are more productive. It's better home life for people. So yeah, I would never go back to making people work in an office.
Yeah. I love that. And I love to hear like a success story post COVID, right? Because now you're able to hire the best talent, even if they're not in Rhode Island or Massachusetts or wherever. So
100%. And that's one of the other businesses, right, that we now offer under Rob Levine Legal Solutions. So we built our own full-time academy. So I hired the director of training and development from T-Mobile, actually 2 people there. And then we built a full-time academy with a learning management system, full-time instructors. So we hire people in Colombia, Peru, and then we train them and certify them either to do intake, legal assistants, or case managers. And once they're trained and they graduate from our academy, we then place them in other law firms. So that's a whole other piece of our business. All in now, between the law firm and our other businesses, we're probably 600 people.
Okay, so a couple things. You started your firm. I love that you kept your name on all of it. I think that part's great. But then also, I think the innovation of the fact that you were like, well, how big can we get? Or, hey, I started to automate stuff in my office and it worked. Let me replicate that in other places and let me start the academy, right? You're like, being a lawyer can be difficult, but there's systems to make it easier. I want to go teach and train. I don't hear that very often. A lot of lawyers want to gatekeep their knowledge or their experience or whatever. And so I think that's really commendable that you're willing to share it.
So the third business that we offer under Rob Levine Legal Solutions is a mastermind group. And so I have law firms from all over the country that belong. And I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for the original mastermind group I joined probably at this point 19 years ago is probably my first mastermind. And there were lawyers in that group that took me under their wing. And that's how I learned Social Security. That's how I learned veterans disability. And all of those things have really worked out well for us. And so I'm happy to share the knowledge, right? So there's a ton of business to be able to accomplish in this country. And so I don't feel it's necessary to gatekeep it. I'm very successful. And by sharing with others is how I give back.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. A lot of times people think that they have to like work for legal aid and like only give back, only do social work type things or make money. And you're clearly showing us that you can do both, right? I am one of the people who do not value things if I don't pay for it. So I might look at your stuff and you'd be like, hey, free workshop, come learn how to run your thing. Oh, I got to pay $1,000? Okay. Right. Because I think when you value your stuff, it kind of makes them want to value it too, right?
100% agree. Nothing we do is free.
Nothing we do is free. And so like, even if you haven't left your house to spend money today, you're using something that you spent money on. I love when people don't shy away from it, but also when they're excited to make money, because I'm excited to make money. The more money you have, the more things you can do, but also like half of these opportunities, you probably would have had to sit on them if you didn't have the money to do them, right?
100%. So I'm now a partner in an AI company. And so they came to me. And so part of that is based on being able to have the access to all of the different information we have, the things I've learned over the years in PI, and be able to bring that to the AI company. Part of that is obviously our resources. So yeah, the bigger we get, the more options we have. I would never say money buys happiness, but it definitely buys options. So it opens lots of doors and gives you lots of options.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So if you don't mind me asking, are you in Puerto Rico now?
I am.
Okay. So audience, Rob wanted to cover his background because he had a fancy background. And I'm sorry you couldn't show it, but like, I'm in Ohio recording with you in Puerto Rico on a Wednesday. Like, that's kind of a flex. That's a big deal.
Yeah, technology is pretty cool.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Rob Levine Legal Solutions. Are these solutions and innovations that you're using in your own firm and then you were like, let me outsource them? Or were they things that people started to ask for?
Yeah, 100%. Everything that we do, we started in the firm. So we started, originally, we tried using another company's record retrieval service. And so it was a disaster. And then we decided to open our own, but for our law firm. And so we ran it for our law firm for several years. And then we decided to build a platform that we would be able to use for other law firms. And that's really how it took off. And then the same thing with the staffing, right? So I started hiring in other countries for me and training them in-house for my law firm and my record retrieval company. And then I had friends that said, hey, can you help me with that? And so we decided to turn it into a business after we perfected it.
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of strength there in testing it and then outsourcing it. So you're an enterpriser, but then you're almost like franchise, or do you just come in and train?
As far as the staffing and training, yeah. So we don't really train people who already work at a law firm. So we train our team members that we hire, and then once I train them and certify them, then I place them in the
You
law
place
firm.
them into a law firm. So you're like an staffing agency. That's what you're calling it,
Yeah,
staffing.
staffing. But the difference is there are lots of companies you could call to get someone that you wanted international. So if you wanted someone in Colombia or Peru, there's lots of companies you could call. We're the only company you could call and say, I want a fully trained case manager that knows how to run a personal injury case from start to finish. So our academy to be a case manager is 12 weeks. So it's 5 days a week, 8 hours a day in a professional environment. They have a live speaker, live trainers, they have a learning management system, they're tested. So we wash out probably 20% of the people that start the academy don't graduate because they just don't meet our standards.
Yeah. I did operations at the law firm that I was in. And so I came in and people were like, oh, you're doing great. How can we get another Kyla? But like, not to replace me, but like replicate me. And when I left, I was managing a department of 6 paralegals. And so I appreciate what you're saying because like, it's not easy, but also when you can then deliver and you're like, no, they want to do everything exactly the way you already do it. Look, they're trained, they're case managers, they're paralegals, they're ready. There's so much value in that, right? And then what is it that like a case manager would do that is so instrumental in a law firm versus anybody else versus just like an associate on the team or a paralegal on the team or whatever that you're able to train people internationally?
So, I mean, the key to running the law firm from the perspective of bringing the most value to both the client financially and medically is, I would say, what's called medical management, right? So there's only two ways for a law firm to make more money, right? Either you bring in more cases or you make the cases you have worth more money. And so the key is, first of all, up front, you want to do the investigation properly. So you establish negligence and you make sure that you have everything you need to button that case up and prove what you need to prove. But then more importantly is it's the treatment, right? So if you don't medically manage your clients, our medical system is broken, right? So the amount of time that doctors spend with personal injury clients is a very small amount of time. And often you see someone go in and see the doctor on the first visit, and then after that they see an NP or PA who just read the doctor's notes on the first visit and is kind of following a protocol. They're not necessarily spending the time to get to know the client. They're not hearing the problems, the client's not getting better. They're not necessarily ordering the objective testing. They're not identifying that there's a potential TBI. So the case manager's job, along with the attorney, is really to make sure that we medically manage that client. They're asking the doctor questions. They're identifying problems, why they're not getting better. We're getting them to the right providers, right? After, let's say they go to their PCP and the PCP sends them for physical therapy. So do they need an ortho? Do they need a neuro? Do they need a TBI consult? What is it they really need? So we focus on that in the academy, is making sure they, number one, understand how to read the medical records, and based on what they're reading, they know the right questions to ask the client and really dig deep and make sure that we're really pushing medical management. One, because the client needs to get better, and two, that's how you maximize the value of the case.
Okay. And there's enough consistency among all these cases that you're 12 weeks and they're like, they've seen everything they could possibly see, they're ready.
No, I wouldn't say that a case manager or paralegal ever sees everything there is to see. In the month of April, we opened 1,000 cases. And so when you're doing that kind of volume, there's no way, even at that volume, that you get to see everything because there's always different nuances. There's always crazy stories, crazy accidents, bizarre injuries. And so, but I would say in 12 weeks, we've done a great job of instilling the basics, right? So now they truly understand how to run a case. They understand liens, they understand health insurance, they understand medical management, they understand demands, records, they understand the settlement process. So they can go into an office and truly function. And then it's on the office to continue to mentor and manage that person and coach them and bring them along. It probably takes someone a good year, if you ask my opinion, to really know what you're doing and do the job really well. After a year, if you're doing volume, right, if you're getting enough cases on a regular basis, let's say you have a caseload of 100 cases of your own. And so then, yeah, that you should be in good shape. But, you're still learning. I've been doing this 25 years. I still learn stuff all the time.
Yeah. Okay. And then I know every office calls these things different titles, right? When I was working at the law firm, I was called an enforcement coordinator, and I was completely the director of operations. So what other titles have you heard that called, like in law firms?
I would say a case manager and a paralegal are generally interchangeable, right? And so what we're talking about is pre-litigation. So we really train them to do the pre-litigation process. They're not in 12 weeks trained in lit. So a litigation paralegal is different than a litigation paralegal. And most litigation paralegals don't even know how to do the pre-lit job. Like they don't know how to build a case from day one, right? And how to handle the treatment and how to get the records and how to do the demand. They're used to litigation, right? So they know how to help with the complaint, how to help with discovery, the interrogatories, request for production, all of those pieces that build that case up to building the trial notebook. And so totally different skill set.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Rob, before law school, what made you decide to go? Had you been around lawyers or what?
So I started at 16 years old as an EMT. I volunteered on a rescue squad. And then I went into the Rhode Island National Guard and I was a military police officer. Then I went to college for criminal justice. And then I was a police officer. So I was a police officer in a small city in Rhode Island. And at the time, the law was if you were a police officer, they had to pay for your bachelor's, master's, and law degree. So I already had my bachelor's in criminal justice. And my goal was to be a Fed. That's really what I wanted, was DEA or FBI, something like that. And so I started going to law school because I thought having my law degree and having the law enforcement background would make it easy for me to become a Fed. And then 6-7 years in, I got into a very bad car accident while I was working as a police officer. A woman pulled out in front of me while I was responding with lights and sirens. Big impact. The two of us went into a building, and I was in therapy for a year. And at the end of the year, the 3 independent doctors said I had to retire. My career was over. So at that point, I took the bar. Well, I finished law school, took the bar, and began the next stage or next phase of my life.
Wow, the rest is history.
Pretty much.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you are doing better. The accident sounds absolutely terrifying. So I love that wasn't the end of your story. You were like, no, there's more. Okay, I can't do that.
There's always more.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So this podcast is all about humanizing lawyers, all the stuff we do outside of the courtroom or outside of our jobs. But also it's advice to younger lawyers. So Rob, what would you say to a young lawyer, 5 years practicing or less, about what they could do with their law degree?
So, I think in today's world, it's limitless, right? So if I had to give advice, whether it was to a lawyer or anyone starting out in any career, it's about finding your passion, right? So we spend more time working than we do anything else in life. You spend more time working than you are with your kids, than you are with your spouse, than you are on your hobbies. So you have to enjoy what you do if you want it to be meaningful and you want it to be able to, really change your life. So that's is always going to be my first piece of advice. Make sure you love what you do, make sure you're passionate about it, and then grow it.
Yeah, grow it. And growing it includes keep going and innovate. Because I feel like
Growing it means a million different things to a million different people, right? So everybody has a different definition as we started out as success, right? So I know lawyers who are very successful that do one very specific area of law, very boutique. They only take a certain type of cases, certain size cases, and they're very happy. I knew other lawyers that want to be a behemoth. They do a ton of different things and they take it all in. So it really just depends what's important to you. Like, so part of what's important to us at our law firm is giving back, for instance. So we give a lot back to the community. We have an event every year where we have a family fun day. So we take over a park, we give backpacks to the kids, we give out bike helmets, we give out all sorts of things. And we have clowns there and musicians and food. We do 7 holidays a year. We give out free rides to prevent drunk driving. So we've built an app that literally downloads a certificate into your phone and uploads it into your Uber app, so you can get a free ride home to prevent drunk driving. I mean, like I said, money gives you options. So for me, one of those things is to give back to the community.
Yeah.
So
I like that Uber idea. That's great. I think it does tie into your mission, with you teaching and training, but also just supporting the community. And do you guys do auto accident cases? You said personal injury.
Yeah, of course.
So then that still reinforces that too. It's like, we don't want you to be a client from that perspective here. I love it. I think that's very smart.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, Rob. Well, thank you so much for joining the You Are Lawyer podcast.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. Talk to you later.
Bye.